Hello and welcome everybody, and welcome my cat as well to the Sactown Sports Kings recap show. My name is Chris Watkins. As I get adjusted and ready here, I am joining you tonight after a very a roller coaster of a game between the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans. Kings yet again are on the losing side of this one in New Orleans. They lose tonight 112-117. And at least we can say this was a better game and a better effort than what we saw on Monday when these two teams met the other day. But yet still, I would say the same problems still linger. The Sacramento Kings did get Trey Lyles back today. Injury was the big storyline heading into Monday's game. They did get Trey back today. It was good to see Trey. He made his impact known in that fourth quarter. Good to see him knock down a couple threes. He's definitely still kind of getting into the swing of things, still kind of getting into game rhythm. But it was great to see Trey out there and see him doing his thing, knocking down a couple triples. And hopefully against Minnesota on Friday, he's going to be able to be a big factor because we know Mike Brown likes to throw Trey out there at the small ball five against Minnesota. So it'll be interesting to see how Trey does then, but looked great today in his first game back in action. Sasha Vezenkov was back today as well. He didn't get much run, definitely got some in the first half, but didn't. I don't know if we saw him at all in the second half, but it was an up and down performance again from pretty much the entire team today. That second quarter was dreadful. I believe they scored 20 points in that second quarter. It looked scary. At halftime, it looked like this game was going to start trending towards what we saw on Monday, but thankfully there was some fight in that third quarter, or in that fourth quarter, I'm sorry, when they got the big lead. Again, in large part due to Trey Lyles hitting some threes. How is everyone feeling about this road trip now that this second game has been played in New Orleans, but we're now 5 games through this 6-game road trip. The Kings are now 3-2 after a 3-0 start. Before this road trip, a lot of us were questioning, what would a successful road trip look like? Is 3-3 good? Is 4-2 what everyone's looking for? And it seems the Kings obviously are kind of on track to go 3-3 or 4-2, obviously. But tough test on Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are playing some of the best basketball in the NBA right now. So going to be a similar problem because they present a lot of length. But just wondering how everyone's feeling about this road trip ending on Friday against Minnesota. And specifically, how is everyone feeling about these 2 games here in New Orleans? Because I heard a lot of people say, they were going to wait to react to Monday's loss. They were going to wait for today's game to react because, sometimes you have bad days. It was 3 games in 4 nights, second night of a back-to-back. So there's tons of reasons why they look bad in that game, but today definitely was clearly a different effort, a lot more competitive of a game tonight. And again, the Kings found themselves down by a lot, but ended up making that game close, which was my biggest gripe with Monday's game. Was it just felt like they gave up and never felt like they believed that they could come back. And tonight, exactly, they showed that if you just continue to fight a good fight, the basketball gods have a funny way of making it a close game at some point late third or in the fourth quarter if you just keep hammering at it. And the Kings did that tonight. They made it a close game when it probably shouldn't have been. But yet, some of the same problems from Monday still persist as they had no answer for Zion and Brandon Ingram as well. Brandon Ingram today was great. He, we saw him get to the rim pretty easily. He's just really tall, really long, and the Kings don't really have a lot of guys who fit that profile with Keegan being out. Chris Duarte was kind of the guy who was tasked on Brandon Ingram tonight, and he found himself in foul trouble for a majority of this game. And I talked about it all day today on the radio show, but the Kings needed Chris Duarte to stay out of foul trouble tonight because without having Keegan, it's Trey Lyles' first game back. They just really didn't have a lot of forward depth tonight to go against Brandon Ingram and Zion. And with Duarte finding himself in foul trouble so quickly, the Kings really didn't have many bodies that they could throw out there. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really surprised by what I saw tonight, but it again just kind of makes me wonder if the ultimate next step for this team is to go out there and get some long, rangy wing player who's, I think of the Jared Vanderbilts, I don't know, there's Royce O'Neal's, Dorian Finney-Smiths, the Jaden McDaniels of the world. Those guys, it feels like the Kings are just kind of missing out on one of those guys. I know last year they were really heavily involved in the Matisse Thybulle conversations. That's, he's not really as big as some of those other guys that I've hinted at, but I definitely think that the Kings need a really big, strong wing that they can play 28 to 35 minutes in a given night, because on a night like tonight, or maybe even it'll be interesting to see what the Kings do with a guy like Anthony Edwards, but the Kings really don't have a lot of defensive answers for guys like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, frankly, which is what makes the Pelicans just a really tough matchup for this Kings team. So there's also an element of that. I will say I really like the fact that today Mike Brown implemented the Stan Van Gundy build and effing wall tactic on Zion tonight, where, again, I'm sure Mike Brown's well aware what I just pointed out, that they don't really have the personnel to match up with Zion. And so what he did was say, look, I know Zion is trying to get to the basket, but if I just put a line of people, 3 guys standing in his way, he's going to have to run through them in order to get to the rim. And sometimes Zion was able to just kind of plow through it because that dude is huge and able to get, really vertical and close to the rim. So he's able to finish. But there was a couple times where he had to finish with his right or would get stripped trying to split those defenders. And I think it was effective. Zion definitely is going to get his, especially when you don't have anyone to man up on him. But I think that if the Kings, looking forward, if they were to have to play the Pelicans in a playoff series, and by some miracle Zion Williamson is still healthy at that point in the season, that's a really interesting thing that you might see in a playoff series, because that's exactly what they try and do on guys like Giannis. And Zion is definitely a freak like Giannis, where you kind of have to get creative if you're going to try and stop him, because there's just not anybody who can go man-to-man on him. Interesting here from TC. I'm not happy with the way they played, and that was a bad three-point shot by Fox. Also, what happened to our mid-range game? All we do is shoot threes and fake layups. They wanted us to win that game bad. Yeah, I mean, there's so many facts in this, TC. Absolutely. Well, I didn't love De'Aaron's 3 at the end of that game. I thought Katie was spot on when she said that Harrison Barnes should have taken that open corner 3. But yeah, I didn't love that look from De'Aaron. He's really feeling good about his 3-point shot, which I don't have a problem with. But if it's going to mean that he's going to, and whatever, there was a lot of passed up open looks. And I'm not going to completely kill De'Aaron, because it's also one of those situations where, we're not in the game without him. But yeah, I did not love that shot from him at all. The mid-range game is completely dead. I don't know where it is. Even De'Aaron isn't getting to that shot as much as he did last year. We saw Kevin Huerter try and take a floater and airball it, and yeah, the mid-range game is gone. I thought tonight that was the biggest problem in that, what was it, the second or the third quarter, where they really struggled to get their offense going. I mean, I think everybody with eyeballs could see that they were just pulling. They were not serious about attacking the rim, and when you're not serious about attacking the rim, nobody's going to collapse. The defense is never going to collapse. They're just going to stay out on their guys because they know you're just going to be three happy. And the Kings really fell into that trap, and it looked terrible. I don't know how they didn't feel it during the game, but it felt like for a good 6 to 8 minute stretch there, the Kings were just pulling threes and had no intentions of getting to the rim, and they were missing everything. And it does make you wonder. My awesome co-host Alan Stiles brought up today, like, are the Kings one-dimensional? It did look like that tonight. It looked like they are solely reliant on the three-pointer, and they feel like if you're not knocking down the three, you're not going to be able to win this game. And that's not good, because we saw in the playoffs last year, you're not always going to be able to knock down your shot, and you have to have a counter. You have to have something else that you can go to and say, well, the shot's not falling. Let's run a pick and roll a ton, or let's get to the rim, or let's focus on cutting instead of looking around the perimeter. Like, there's tons of different counters that you should be able to have instead of just going for the perimeter jumper over and over and over again, especially when you're missing. It really did look like the Houston Rockets in that Western Conference Finals when they missed 27 straight threes. It looked terrible, and yet they just continued to shoot the ball. I get it. You feel like the personnel on your team is so good that you always believe that the next shot is going in, regardless of how many you've missed. But at some point, you can't just live and die by the three. You have to try and look for something else. And Harrison Barnes, to his credit, did a great job of that in the third quarter. He really set the tone to start that second half and got to the rim a couple times. And I thought the Kings really, it settled them down. And Trey Lyles, again, in that fourth quarter, came out and was just nailing perimeter jumpers. And you love to see it. That's what the Kings missed. And, it'll be really good to see different lineups with Trey. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all, I've been talking every day after these games, every game, about JaVale McGee and the headaches that I just feel like I get from watching him. And tonight, that inbounds pass, it was so frustrating. And it wasn't just JaVale. Sasha had a really terrible pass as well that got stripped by, I believe, Dyson Daniels. And, it was just lazy passes, and it was just at the worst time possible for it. And it's just really frustrating. And it's definitely not just a JaVale thing, but it was something that I definitely noticed. I also have to point out the fact, y'all, Domantas Sabonis's airballed free throw just murdered me. It slayed me. The Kings were shooting so well from the free throw line today. I think they were 15 of 15 before they missed their first one. And, De'Aaron ended up missing a couple. Sabonis missed a couple. But his air ball to potentially tie the game up at 104 in that fourth quarter, that was tough. That was really, really tough, especially as someone who's been just preaching that the Kings have to pay more attention to their free throws, or whatever you want to say. I don't think that they need to work more on their free throws. I just think it's kind of a focus thing. The fact that Sabonis just aired that free throw was just terrible. Also, I'm really not this kind of guy, but the refs tonight I thought were just all-encompassing terrible. I think it's a true sign when both teams feel like you were calling it favorably for the other team. In that first half, the Kings were getting just the worst whistles. Trey had 3 fouls in the first half. Duarte picked up a ton of fouls. Sabonis kind of picked up a ton of fouls. It just felt like they were really quick to blow the whistle. And then in the second half, specifically when the Kings were going on their run, there was refs you suck chants going in the Smoothie King Arena, or is it Smoothie King Center? That's how you really had a stinker as a referee, when both fan bases definitely think you suck tonight. So tough night for the officials. And I kind of do think it cost them, because I think it really got in the Kings' head the first half. You saw De'Aaron pick up a tech. I'm pretty sure that was for complaining to an official about Jose Alvarado, who I just can't stand. I can't stand that man. Him standing in the corner trying to sneak and get steals. I get it. It's scrappy. It's fun. I wish Davion Mitchell did things like that, honestly. But I just don't do it against a team that I'm watching. I'm rooting for here. It was really upsetting. I understand why he's a fan or a fan favorite, but yeah, it was not fun to go against him. Really glad that I don't think we have to see the Pelicans for a while, if I'm not mistaken. And the next time we see them, I can guarantee it'll be in Golden One Center. So at least there's that. Let me see the next time the Kings play the Pelicans here is where is it? They don't play the Pelicans until the third to last game of the season in Golden One Center. So wow, April 11th is the next time they will see the New Orleans Pelicans. So it's going to be a while. I very much doubt that Zion Williamson will be playing in that game, so it shouldn't be a problem at that point. But yeah, bye New Orleans. Never want to see you again. Yeah, glad to be done with this. And frankly, I am a little bit disappointed at the fact that the Kings did. You know what? I actually shouldn't be. I'm going to stop myself there. I was going to go into a Houston thing where they lost 2 games in Houston and now lose 2 games in New Orleans, but they did really compete tonight. It's not their fault that the result didn't go their way. Well, you could argue it is their fault that the result didn't go their way, but they put together a good enough effort to where I will not say this is similar to Houston, because in Houston they just laid down for 2 straight games. At least tonight there was some resilience, some fight, and they made the game really close. So I do have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Sacramento Kings. Appreciate it. I think it would also be great if you could do it on Friday as well, because Friday is always one of those days. I'm going out of town, so I'm going to be with some family and stuff like that. So it'll be great to have the entire family be able to see a good competitive game on Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like I said, I will be out of town, so Brendan Nunez will be handling that post-game live stream. But the Minnesota Timberwolves do present a very tough issue for the Sacramento Kings, and that is the same issue that the Pelicans gave them as well, and that is length and size. They have tons of it. Anthony Edwards is just an absolute monster. They have 3 really good centers in Rudy Gobert, obviously, and Karl-Anthony Towns and Naz Reid. So that's going to be a handful for Sabonis to deal with. Going to need some big minutes from JaVale. Again, it'll be interesting to see if Trey Lyles plays backup 5, see if you can pull Gobert out from the paint, because the Minnesota Timberwolves are ridiculous at defending the paint. They also, I looked it up today, allow the second lowest 3-point percentage to their opponents. So opponents shoot 33% from 3 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's going to be a problem, especially if they play like they did tonight, where they're hunting those threes. They don't go in against Minnesota because they have such long guys. They can crash, but at the same time contest your 3-point shot and make it difficult. So you cannot rely on your 3. I know it's going to be scary to go against a guy like Rudy Gobert. I know your natural instinct is going to be to go away from him, but the Kings need to still try and assert some dominance in the paint, because they didn't do that tonight. And frankly, I mean, I kind of feel like they were lucky to make this game as close as they were. Should we do 3? We'll do stars of the night. Why not? Why not? They played well enough. This is not like the other night. We can do 3 stars. We can find 3 stars from tonight. Wow, I did not realize. Shout out. Well, let's not spoil it. Let's give 1 star tonight to De'Aaron Fox. I thought De'Aaron played great. Definitely was a lot better than he was on Monday. I ultimately don't want to give him 2 stars, which is slightly more credit. Just because, like TC said earlier, I did not like that 3-point shot he took in the game. I just feel like his 3-point shooting is something that comes and goes, and I feel like when in general the team shots aren't falling, he shouldn't be looking for his 3 at that point. I feel like he needs to be somebody who is honestly a lot like Harrison Barnes in those moments, where he needs to recognize, all right, shots aren't falling. Let's get to the line. Let's get to the rim. And I kind of think De'Aaron has fallen just a little bit in love with that three-point shot. So, I'm only going to give him 1 star tonight. 2 stars is going to go to the dude who I was shocked by, Harrison Barnes, 22 points in 40 minutes. He did look really aggressive tonight, and that was great to see. I always talk about just how I want to see Harrison be selfish and have an ego. And I think tonight, I don't know if Mike Brown told him, like, hey, Zion's guarding you and we're trying to make that man tired, like, move him on defense. Maybe it was that, but I thought Harrison was a lot more aggressive looking to get to the rim, and he took 9 threes tonight. I can't remember the last time he even took 9 shots in a game. So the fact that Harrison was looking aggressive, I love it. He got 22 points, which is great. And he did have tough assignments tonight. Like, again, without Keegan and with Duarte in foul trouble, he did have to guard Zion and Brandon Ingram for a good portion of tonight. So shout out HB. 3 stars I'm giving to Domas. I thought Domas tonight, I think Jonas Valanciunas, maybe I just like him more than everybody else. I think he's a really tough matchup. I think there's only a couple centers who are as big as him in today's NBA, like physically strong. There's Steven Adams. I think Jokic is that strong. I think Embiid is that strong. But besides that, I don't think there's many humans that are just as physically imposing as Jonas Valanciunas, who also had a pretty nice game, 15-11. But the fact that Sabonis, I can't. That little run that he had in the fourth quarter, I thought was great. He kind of had a typical Sabonis game, a quiet night, but you look up and you look at his numbers, and they're just undeniable. I loved what Sabonis did tonight, and I think it would have been nice if he hit his free throws. I should downgrade him a little bit because he missed those free throws and that air ball, but I love what Domantas Sabonis did, and absolutely, Brian, I completely agree with this. I was just about to say this. They didn't have Keegan Murray tonight, and of course, maybe this is a slippery slope because the Pelicans can say, "Hey, we didn't have CJ McCollum tonight," so you can play that game tick for tack. But definitely, I think if Keegan plays tonight, he definitely A, gives them one more defender, but B, it did feel like their offense, especially again when they were missing all of those threes, just needed a little bit more pop. And Keegan definitely provides that. Shout out Matt here. I assume Matt is a New Orleans Pelicans fan or from New Orleans. GG's, y'all got a gritty bunch. They were gritty tonight for sure. It was good to see them have some fight tonight. I don't know if you watched on Monday, Matt, but they didn't look very gritty on Monday. But tonight was definitely a really good bounce back performance. It was good that they didn't lay down and just admit defeat and say, "Oh my God, here we go again. Let's back to square one." No, they picked themselves up, and I thought they ended this little New Orleans trip on a positive note. And you don't have to feel bad about yourself or nervous heading into Friday. Feels like it's a good, clean slate. Time to go into this in-season tournament game because it is a huge game in terms of in-season tournament implications on Friday against Minnesota. Both of the Kings and the Minnesota Timberwolves are they? I know they're both undefeated. I'm trying to think if they're both 2-0 or if Minnesota is already 3-0. But the Kings do need to win this game if they want to have a shot at winning this group. They are undefeated with Minnesota. I do know that. And if they win, then that puts a loss on Minnesota, and the Kings would just have to win on Tuesday against Golden State in order to win the group because they would have the head-to-head victory over Minnesota. If the Kings lose to the Timberwolves, it almost becomes impossible to win the group because then the Kings have a loss, Minnesota still would not have a loss, and the Minnesota would own the head-to-head. So the Kings could still get in through the wild card, which they would probably have to go 3-1 in the in-season tournament play in order to achieve, but they do have really big implications on Friday in that game. So can't wait for that one. Again, Brendan Nunez will be joining you from wherever his home setup is on Friday after that one. Kings unfortunately lose tonight. No beam is lit heading into Thanksgiving holiday. We'll see. We'll see about Friday. I have a good feeling about Friday. The Kings have really shown up in the in-season tournament, and they actually do pretty well against Minnesota. So excited for that one. Hope you guys enjoy. Brendan, you guys have a fantastic night. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving as well, and happy holidays. I guess. I guess we can start saying happy holidays now. So.